Hello everyone, this is Allegedly Caleb, and I'm back with another episode of my Solitaire Advanced Squad Leader game, where I am playing with a big group of other players, and we are playing through a giant group campaign. So, this group campaign has us in France for the first couple of missions. We are participating in the German invasion of France as a regular German infantry division, and each of us generally takes control of a infantry company. So let's take a quick look at the briefing. And this is the briefing for actually my entire battalion. So there's 3 different players in my battalion. And you can see all of us have different missions. This is currently the 3rd mission. My company has been doing pretty well so far. Our first 2 missions, we took a good number of casualties, but we did pass our missions and we were awarded some medals for that because we had to go against some pretty tough French opposition. Now, if you want to take a look at those previous missions in this campaign, definitely check out the linked videos at the end of this video, or I believe I put some up at the top of the screen. So go ahead and check those out. Anyway, so for this mission, you can see we are in the Cher Valley, France. It is currently around this time, 21st of May through 10th of June, 1940. We are in the 191st Infantry Regiment. Now, overall, our regiment is trying to secure the area to our front, and then I believe I'm 1st Battalion. So in 1st Battalion, we're in reserve and we're conducting patrolling against the French to disrupt their movement and determine their strengths. The French are starting to consolidate, and some concerted resistance is expected in our area, which must be repulsed. And then these missions are at nighttime. So if you're not used to nighttime advanced squad leader, it's a little bit different from daytime. There's some extra stuff that makes these missions way more chaotic. But this is my company right here. We are 2nd Company. We're conducting a patrol. Luckily, we're starting on the side that has this town. Really, this almost looks like the outskirts of a city right here. So we're going to skip to our battalion intent. So we're conducting some offensive missions to throw the enemy into confusion. In anticipation of an offensive, 3rd Company from my battalion is conducting a behind enemy lines mission to try to silence a French battery. 2nd Company, which is me, is conducting a patrol through 2nd Battalion lines to fix the French lines and harass them while we prepare for an offensive against our defensive lines. Finally, 3rd Company, which is another company in my battalion, are trying to find a French spotter that is taking out a lot of our men with accurate artillery fire. So specifically for me, here I am. I'm conducting a nighttime patrol. I had to do it after the other 2 companies in my battalion finished their missions, because depending on if they succeeded, there might be some changes to my mission. Anyway, so you can see we have a forward observer party with us who are spotting for a group of 80 millimeter battalion mortars. So off-map artillery, essentially. So I could either choose that, or I could choose a section of those mortars to put on the map. I chose the off-map option instead. It would be difficult to use mortars in this sort of terrain, especially with the type of mission that we had, which I'll explain when we get there. Anyway, as you can see here, it is a linked mission. So if my teammates won, if both of them won, essentially we would reduce the chance that we would be fighting, that enemy unit markers would turn into enemy units. Instead, more likely that they would become dummy markers. We ended up with 1 win and 1 loss. So essentially, the enemy sniper activation, that had a negative dice roll modifier, which made it more likely that the enemy sniper would be more active. And in this instance, the enemy sniper also stood for enemy artillery. So because they were both missions that would reduce the enemy artillery effectiveness, if they failed, then that's why the enemy artillery is still more accurate. Now, if they both lost, the enemy AC activation would go up, which would mean we'd be fighting more enemies, which would not be good. Again, they did do, one of them won their mission and one of them lost their mission. So I ended up having to deal with more enemy artillery than usual. All right, and that is essentially everything that is pertainable to me. So here's the map. Now for a patrol mission, one of the interesting things about this mission is it's so different from any other mission in the SASL, like mission types. Essentially, you have two columns. A friendly column, which comes in on one random road from your friendly map edge, and then an enemy column, which comes from a random road on their map edge. And then those two, actually, let me get my epic pen. That'll help me explain things. Those two columns will eventually meet in the middle and see each other. So for example, the enemy column will come in here, and then they'll always move in the direction that would, so like they can't move in this direction because that would bring them off map. They have to move in towards where the enemy would be. So then here they would roll to determine whether they go that way or that way. They ended up going that way, and same thing here. They can't go back this way or down this way because it would take them away from potentially meeting me. So they go this way, and now this is when it got tricky. They could either move up or move down the road, because either of those would potentially bring them towards me. They move down the road, and then they could either go this way or go this way. Now, either of those could end them with meeting my units, which are doing the same exact thing. They're either going up, down, straight on each road until they eventually meet somewhere. So theoretically, we could have met them all the way over here. We could have met them over here. It's fun because it gives you a random place that your team will meet their team on the map. Now, as you can see, we met them right here. And the way it works is once your enemies, or once you have line of sight of each other, that is when essentially the game starts. You activate the enemy units that have line of sight to you. Then you roll randomly to see who goes first. Well, not quite. It's whoever activates the other person first is the one who goes first. So that's how we got here. Now let's see what happens. And page down. Okay, so that's me describing who showed up. Now I'm rolling for command to see who. There we go. Sometimes it gets stuck on those line of sight checks. Now I'm rolling for command to see who is going to be in command, and everyone's in command this turn, which is great. So they're moving down. Now, one of the things that can happen with night turns is something called, I think it's straying. If you roll, I think, whatever the roll is, if you roll it and it's not common, but your units will accidentally move a completely random direction. It's supposed to simulate that in nighttime, sometimes your men can get lost and go in the wrong direction, which is a pretty cool addition, I think. It mixes up these night battles a lot. Now, what I'm trying to do, let me get that line of sight out of here. What I'm trying to do, essentially, is create some sort of line along all of this really good cover right here and force the enemy to come to me. Because in this mission, the enemy is in what would you would call it, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but essentially they're active. They're not acting defensive, they're acting active. So they'll actively move towards you. And in this game mode, the enemy receives victory points either from killing your units or from getting off the edge of the map. Off your edge of the map. So we want to essentially create a defensive line and stop them from getting over here or killing my units. So that's my objective, and you'll see me start to do that. I got very lucky with my my rolls to move my units and my command checks. But you're also going to see some enemy tanks begin activating. So already we have an H-39, which was a fearsome enemy tank. That 37mm gun could pretty much take out any of the German tanks at this time. Most tanks during this time period, especially for the Germans, had pretty light armor. So a 37mm gun could penetrate them pretty easily. The French tanks, on the other hand, had much better armor, but they didn't have radios. So while they could, and they had, typically they had decent guns. 37 to, I think even, no, I don't think they had 50mm. 45s maybe. But pretty much they could pen most of the German tanks, maybe except for their Panzer IIIs. But anyway, you can see they have a lot of tanks that begin activating. Most of them will end up being old tanks, but they have a lot of infantry too. You can see I'm moving my anti-tank rifle units up to try to deal with that tank, and I'm placing some other anti-tank rifle units around the other places to support if I activate more enemy tanks, which I do. Now this is another thing that makes these dice missions fun. These are flares. Now in a flare, a unit inside a flare can see another unit inside the flare, but they cannot see units that are not inside the flare. So for example, these guys cannot see all of them because they're not inside the flare. And that means they're not inside the lighting that the flare provides. So one of your goals in these games is to get your flares on the enemy units, but have your units stay outside that radius of the flare. So let's continue. Now they're firing at us. Luckily, I'm in stone buildings, so they're not going to hit us very much, because stone buildings are some of the best cover that you'll find in this game. Whereas most of them are still out in the open. So we're going to be able to fire on them, which will be handy. Now it's their turn. They're moving. Okay, they've got some more units. Now this is one of my hot spots. This is where I have my machine gun teams. So in 1940, the Germans did not have machine guns basically embedded in each company. At least they didn't have heavy and medium machine guns embedded in each company. They had a separate machine gun company that was embedded in the battalion. So for this, we've essentially broken down that machine gun company, and our commanders divided them up among each company so that we would all have access to at least one heavy machine gun and one medium machine gun. That's why we have those. Now later, I believe they'll actually become part of each company. But you can see we caught these guys out in the open road, and they also have an AA truck. Luckily, since it's just an AA truck, we'll be able to take care of that with our machine guns, because they have quite a heavy, they are hitting pretty hard. And we broke those guys that were trying to cross that street in front of our machine guns, as we should. But they're getting a lot of units into these wooden and stone buildings. And that one actually just produced a 9-2 leader, which is a very good leader. And they also just activated a tank inside that wooden building. Now, tanks and other armored vehicles can be activated in wooden buildings, but not in stone buildings. So this one is a little... What is that one? Let's see, it'll tell me in the log. I remember it being kind of a weird one. Okay, maybe it hasn't told me yet. I need to actually move it first for it to tell me what it is. Yep, there it is. AMC 29. So that's an armored car, but I believe it's a tracked armored car. Or, you know what? If I remember right, that's actually a half track. So it's got a 37mm gun, which is enough to take out our tanks, but it's a short barreled gun. So it'll deal essentially on the firepower equivalent. It's 4 firepower. Not great, but it can catch units out and damage them pretty well. It's also got a 2-factor machine gun, which is not very good. So he's just going to hang out in that building, essentially. I think I was trying to get him to look forward, but I think I still have him backwards there by accident. Anyway. So we're firing on the enemy as they're moving. And now we've gotten another tank. Now this one is an AMR 35. That is a dedicated recon vehicle. It's armored, but all it has is a coaxial machine gun. So it's good against infantry, and it's got 4 firepower, and it's maneuverable. That's the main thing. So if I was playing as the French, I would use that to try and scout out what the enemy has. But against me, even these little AT guns or AT rifles are going to be enough to damage it. But I also have my mortar, and I've got my spotter in this hex right here with all my machine guns, and they have plenty of targets to try to hit. So I'm trying to drop some artillery, and that artillery is going to start out as a spotting round, and the next turn I'll be able to convert it if I want. But we are running into a lot of enemy vehicles. So I'm suspecting that we're maybe fighting, we've got a armored unit in the area. And since there's so many different types of vehicles, it might even be an armored division. Okay. Now we're continuing, and they actually just broke some of my units, which is not good. There we go. Okay. Now those armored units are running away. Now they're moving forward. They're advancing. They're going to try to overwhelm us next turn in a general assault. It's not a horrible idea, especially because they just broke some units, and some of our units are still pinned. So next turn, if we don't break them, we're in trouble. Now, most of these are green. Maybe not most, but a lot of these units are green, so they're going to be a little easier to break. But we do have a stack of first line units with a 9-2 right next to them. So those guys are going to hit really hard if we don't deal with them by next turn. We also have an elite unit right here. So they're going to be hard to break as well. And then they're supported with that machine gun truck, and then a tank down here with a bunch more infantry ready to come charging down, and then another tank over here. So it's starting to look a little bit sketchy for us. And then in addition, there's a bunch of units over here ready to start pushing against us from these houses. So our line is under a lot of pressure, and we just Started uncovering some units over here. And another enemy tank. This time an FT-17. A very old tank. I believe it was used maybe during World War I or even possibly right at the end of the war, and was acted more as a interwar tank. It's got a 37mm gun, but no anti-infantry capability. And it spawned inside of that building. So we're trying to rally our units right now, which we actually did really well. You can see here, we rallied one of those units at least. Not many casualties for either side yet. And I have these mortars right here that are using this scout to spot. So those guys are going to be able to go ham in a little bit. I've popped my flares, and those are really good flares that I've just sent out. Essentially, like I mentioned before, they're making it to where all of these units cannot see my units because they're in the flares, but we aren't. Now, if these units fire, they'll be able to see those. They'll be able to see them. So that's the drawback. But at this point, it's up to me. Now, first, I was able to use my anti-tank rifle in this hex, and he was able to hit and destroy that tank right there. So that FT-17 is toast. And I was also able to break the infantry right there. Now, if they were able to get into that hex to fight me, I could have been in trouble. So I'm lucky I was able to do that. Now, I pinned those guys as well in that wooden house. I was also able to use, I think it was maybe my machine guns. I can't remember exactly who. But I was able to destroy this anti-air truck just with small arms fire. Okay. In addition, I was able to break the majority of these units with a really good attack from these guys, which, to be fair, that's 16 firepower onto them with no cover because they are right next to them. However, one other thing to note about these night missions is every unit gets a +1 to their attack, which is bad. But it's because it's nighttime and you don't have the best vision at night. So it makes sense that you wouldn't be able to shoot as effectively. All right, now we're using our mortars to try and get these guys out of here, and they're in open cover, or they're in open field. So now finally we're moving these guys who've been out of the fight this whole time because they wandered down here, and then I believe they got scared. So they panicked, so I wasn't able to do anything with them. Now the enemy's firing back. And with these guys, we're going to be able to counterattack, which, if you know anything about World War II, was sort of the German specialty. Okay, now they're retreating. And the reason this leader didn't retreat with them was because he was pinned, which is really good for us because he probably could have gotten those guys back. Now, one thing we noticed is that these units were making a break for the end of the map. In addition, I was worried that this tank was going to get a movement order and also try to break for that side of the map. So what I wanted to do was bring these guys up to deal with these guys. In addition, I wanted to bring this anti-tank rifle to either put fire on him where he was or try to squeeze right into here, because this would get in between him and whatever road he wanted to use to get to the edge of the map, either this road or this road. And he'd be able to put off a really good shot. So that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm moving those units. Oops. There we go. And that's the end of that turn. So now everyone's trying to rally. Now the enemy is getting their orders. And you can see they're starting to dwindle. Their numbers were really reduced that last turn. We had a really effective firing phase against them. They're trying to shoot at us. They weren't really shooting very effectively. Now we're rolling command. Okay, they moved towards us, and we were able to stop them. Luckily, at least stop some of them. Now you can see we had 30 firepower attacking them. So that's why we had such good, we were able to break them so easily, even in a stone building. Okay, now they're moving. More units are being activated. Now you can see here, they've got more guys out in the open. But we did not break them with that. These guys who were able to put 30 firepower did not break those units, which really sucked. So if they remain unbroken, they're going to be able to advance into that hex and potentially get into close combat. And even though they have significantly less troops, they have that leader with the -2 rating, which could really put us in some danger there. Because in close combat, you can never quite predict what's going to happen. In addition, another FT-17 just spawned, or was activated, and it was activated right next to us in that wooded building. Don't know how it got all the way there without us detecting it, but I guess it is nighttime, so it's a little bit believable. Good thing for us, though, we are in a stone building, which means he won't be able to try and overrun us. But he is going to be able to put effective fire on us with his 4 firepower, which I believe would even be... No, I don't think it would be converted to 8. But anyway, he is right next to us, which means he would have a much better chance to hit, even with us in those stone buildings. But we were able to shoot these guys who tried moving across the street with our machine guns. We placed those machine guns in a really good spot. Now they have some more units that are activated over here. Another elite squad. And that elite squad... Actually, no, we just fired. That's what happened. I thought he broke them for a second. And this truck, or this armored car, is trying to move closer to us to shoot better. In addition, they've got more units that are trying to assault us, but as you can see, I just rolled a 3. Which is extremely good. And that just broke both of those units. And I think there was a leader there that we killed too. And this is why an advanced squad leader, solitaire advanced squad leader, it's so much better to try and make their units come to you. Because the way the advanced squad leader bot works, it will push units over open cover to attack you. Now, if there's cover that's available to them, they'll try to use it. But in general, it'll take the fastest route to you. If you're lucky. That doesn't always happen. But it's much better than trying to attack them. So my strategy of just hunkering down, establishing a strong defensive line, and just shooting them as they come to us was really working in my favor. And you can see I'm trying to take out some of their armored vehicles with my anti-tank rifles. Not quite working yet. Now they're routing. They've got a lot of routed units right now. Now they're advancing. All right, and now it's the next turn. Some of their units were able to rally, but not all of them. Okay, now we're finally able to place that or, well, the reason that that off-board observer was not, the spotter, was not able to place that fire down earlier was because he rolled for out of contact. Now he tried to do it again, and his spotting round landed way over there, which is not good. We do not want to drop artillery on our own guys down here. Especially those are ones that just rallied. But we were able to place some more fire down onto those guys and break them. Even with a bad roll like that, we've got so much firepower here. That's what? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 times 2. That's 32. And then I'm not sure if we used the... I think we might have used the anti-tank rifle crew as well to get another 2. That's 34. That is a ton of firepower. So even with a roll like a 10, you're able to deal some good damage if you're lucky. But we're firing on them. We took out some more units. We took out some of these guys. Yep. But we did not break. Actually, we did. Now we're using our mortars to try and clean them up, which we did. Actually, no, we didn't. They didn't really do anything. Actually, yeah, we're still firing on them, and you can see we did clean a lot of them up. We reduced each of those squads to half squads. And this anti-tank rifle, he just tried to hit this armored car again, or half track, I guess. And he immobilized him, so he's not going to be moving towards us, which is good. Let's take a quick look at the casualties. You can see their casualties are lining up. They are stacking quite heavily. So at this point, we're doing really well. We haven't even taken a casualty yet. And it's only turn 3. So they attacked us strongly, but that attack fell on its face. Okay, they're retreating again. Now it's our turn. We're moving. Actually, no, we advanced a little bit. Now it's the French turn 3. They're trying to rally some of their units. That's another thing. We got pretty lucky because their rally rolls were not super great. Although you can see in this turn, they did rally some of their units. Okay, they're firing. They're trying to assault us again, but at this point, their assaults are kind of piecemeal. And now we're about to get a artillery barrage, or at least a mortar barrage down onto all of these units. So this is going to be really handy. And it might even take out that tank if we're lucky. Okay, they tried to assault us here again. I think that's another 9.2 liter. I don't know if that's the original one from over here. It might be, but they lost some more units. And now this guy is immobilized as well. So he's going to have to take that mortar barrage, whether he wants it or not. Now it's the rout phase again. You can see they have way more routed units than just normal units at this point. They're going to try to advance in here when they can and go into CC with that crew, which would be bad because it'd be 6-1, which we basically die in immediately, I think. All right, but now it's German turn 4. And I'm going to start to skip through this because I think it's clear we have the advantage now. Now we're reducing them. In fact, that artillery barrage did destroy that other vehicle. We got very lucky there. And it's taking out some more of the infantry around it, which is awesome. All right, we were able to destroy this tank. Again, just an FT-17 with, where was it? This anti-tank gun. And we must have hit something brutal because he went up in flames too. He brewed up. So now we're moving our units and we're starting to counterattack. My plan over here now is essentially to wrap around here, get these guys to surrender, and get behind them. Once I'm behind them, I could go into CC against this tank. I could try to get behind these guys, force them to surrender, and pretty much wrap this mission up. And at this point, I was getting a little bit fatigued of, this was done, by the way, over multiple sessions. I've just combined it all into one long log file. I was getting a little bit fatigued of playing. Sometimes it's hard to play when you're absolutely destroying the enemy. You know what's going to happen, and you're just trying to reduce your casualties. Speaking of casualties, it is, I'll show what they are right now. 40 enemy casualty victory points worth. Tons of infantry. We'll count it all at the end. With nothing on my side. You can see I've lost 2 light machine guns just to them breaking. Other than that, we haven't lost anything yet. So now we continue. There we go. They're shooting at us. It's not really effective. They did break some units over here, though, as you can see. They pinned those guys. But we're firing back at them now, so our fire is going to be far more effective. Now we're rallying. We panic. Some of our units panicked because they're a little bit far from our leaders. Okay, now we're starting to move our units up because we want to make sure these guys don't rally. We want to surrender them instead. Now we're counterattacking essentially. We're also trying to place fire on their units because we don't want them rallying. When you fire on a broken unit, even if you don't hurt it or kill it, it'll still place a desperate morale marker back on. So it's a good way to make sure that their units don't come back. Now some of them did just come back right here, which is a little bit dangerous. But honestly, at this point in the game, I'm just trying to wrap it up now. Which you'll see, I do start to make a couple of mistakes. I will start taking a couple casualties. You can see there's one already. Although he is eliminated and retained. So he's gonna, next mission, I'll still have him. Okay, now we move forward. You can see we've got one unit behind their lines now, but they're starting to rally, which is not good. I've got this guy all by himself when I've got some enemies back here who are rallying. Okay, that tank finally decided to move, which is not good. He moved right next to my unit. But at this point, the reason why he did not attack him is because, and this will show off another interesting thing about these night missions. There's something called night vision rating or something like that. Essentially, what it is it's supposed to reflect how much actual light there is at night. Now, sometimes it'll be, say it's at 2, that means your units can see 2 hexes away, not counting the flares. If there's a flare up, then they can see anything that's in that flare. But the other thing, sometimes it can go all the way down to 0, which means your units can't see into the hex next to them. They can't fire into that hex unless that unit is fired already. It's rough. Now for tanks, because tanks just have so much less visibility in general, their night vision rating is always divided in half. And to be able to see in front of them, they have to have their commander out of the hatch. They can't be buttoned up. So essentially, because I'm right next to them and they can see me, their commander has to stay in his hatch, which means, and tanks aren't allowed to move during nighttime unless they're not buttoned up. So he's just not going to move anymore. He's just going to sit there and shoot at me, which is good. Anyway, we're going to keep going. We're just trying to wrap up some of those units. Actually, let me close this. There we go. They're disrupted now, which means hopefully we'll be able to surrender them. And they're assaulting my unit there. I final fired, and I got a little bit lucky. Their units are, one of their units are pinned at least. So that's just going to be like 5 firepower against me if they shoot at me. But we've broken more units over here. Trying to shoot this guy, and now he's got his butt to us, so we're going to do more damage against him. And those guys surrendered. So now we have a bunch more prisoners. Okay. Now let's sort of skip through the rest of this. So unfortunately, these guys got broken. This is how things are looking now. We've got our, what the heck? Spotter is over here. I think that unit right there is supposed to be surrendered. Not an actual like unit there. It's supposed to be a surrendered guy. Weird. Anyway. We're just collecting prisoners at this point and mopping up. They've got this one tank left. We've got a bunch of units next to him trying to take him out, including 2 anti-tank rifles. Okay. I think this radio guy got placed there by mistake. Because he's not, you can't stack a friendly unit with an enemy unit unless they're in close combat. And I don't think that was the case there. Okay, we routed more of their troops. He shot at that anti-tank rifle and pinned him. And we moved some units into CC against that tank. They got some more units rallied, but we broke them. Another thing about this mission, the French had a ELR of like 1, I think, maybe even less, but I'm pretty sure it was a 1 because it's a nighttime mission and they just generally have bad ELR. So most of these guys are either, I forget what the term is, but they're being reduced to worse units every time we break them, and then by the time they're green units, they just get disrupted. So that's one reason why we were so successful. All right, now we weren't able to take out that tank, and he actually took out some of my units, or at least he broke them. So we still have 1 unit, but we've got some anti-tank rifles next to him, so he's toast here in a second. All right, but our anti-tank rifle, you can see right here, was able to hit that tank in the butt, and we rolled a 2 on the to kill, which means he's brewed up and destroyed. So that is officially the best vehicle we've taken out so far, an H-39. Okay, now we're just wrapping the mission up. You can see here, we're just trying to take out this one last little squad. And of course they panic, which is great, and we broke them, and they're now ours. That's the end of the log file. So let's take a look at the casualties overall. 61 enemy casualties. Let's count how many squads that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 green squads. 8, 9, 10, 3.5 first level squads. I guess 4 because of these guys. So that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 squads, plus all of these guys over here who are taken prisoner, which is, let's count. So that's 11 so far. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 enemy squads destroyed. That's what? Almost 4 platoons? We basically destroyed an entire enemy company. And of that, we've captured, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We captured 8 squads, so 2 platoons. Or, yeah. We captured 2, basically half of this entire company, and we destroyed 4 armored vehicles. Meanwhile, we lost 1/2 squad that was retained. I think he must have taken a casualty MC or something like that. So overall, this has got to be the best mission that we have done so far. It helped so that we had nearly a full company. I think we were only missing 2 units from the entire company, 2 squads, and then maybe some scouts. But yeah, we performed very, very well. Now, in the next mission, and it's actually the ongoing mission right now, there's a mini historical campaign going on where, little known, the 71st German Infantry Division had to clear the French city of Verdun from French troops. And I believe it was called like the French Stalingrad or something like that, because the entire city was just full of French troops and they were defending it block by block. So I'm not part of that ongoing game. There's probably 6 or 8 players who are, and they're all going block by block through their various objective areas of the city at the same time, by the way. So this is all going on at the same time. I'm going to be given a mission on the outskirts of the city so that I don't have to rely on communicating back and forth with the other players, just because that mission is going to go on for a couple months, and I'm actually taking my honeymoon pretty soon. So I won't be able to communicate very much during that time. So that is what I've got going on next in this campaign. But so far, I'm enjoying this campaign quite a lot. It has been quite fun. And hopefully it's been fun for you guys to watch and follow along with. So we'll see next episode what our company will be up to and what sort of mission we'll have to face. But anyway, thank you everyone. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I look forward to coming back with some more content for you. Until then, I'll see you next time.